Today we're going deep into ring rust, and I'm sure at some point in your pro wrestling career you have or will encounter it, whether it's through injury or just a period of time outside the ring that you just couldn't control. You come back, you feel like a shell of your former self, you lost your confidence. Today's episode is going to break down exactly how to overcome this as quickly as possible. So ring rust is usually a combination of a loss of confidence or a loss of conditioning that comes with just being out of the ring and not practicing anymore. It could be that you've sustained an injury and now you're a bit weary about that body part and further injuring it. But more often than not, it's more to do with a loss of automation. So when I say that, I'm talking about that flow state we find when we practice something a lot. So you're training wrestling over and over, you've been doing it for a few years, and now those simple fundamentals you no longer have to think about. They just kind of happen. You know, you move in the right direction. Things just always look pretty good and you don't really have to put too much emphasis or effort into it, at least not focused effort. But when you've had time out of the ring, you come back and suddenly you feel like you've got two left feet and those fundamentals just aren't flowing the way they used to. You feel like everyone's passed you by. You feel like you've lost what you had. A great place to start would be to self-assess which of the three elements you feel you're struggling with the most. Is it a loss of conditioning? Is it a loss of confidence? Or do you just feel like your movements just aren't coming together the way they used to? When you can pinpoint exactly where you're struggling, well, now you can start to build a bit of a routine or a bit of a training habit or focus that starts to work on specific elements that you need the most. And often I say just being aware of things, just being able to self-assess and kind of know where your inadequacies are is a massive step in itself, because when things are always in the back of your mind, you tend to work on them subconsciously. You're a bit more aware of where you're struggling and what needs more work. On that note, repetition, incredibly important. Think back to when you first started training. You know, you were coming in as often as possible, you loved it all, you were stoked on it, at least I imagine you were if you were anything like me. And over time, sometimes that repetition might diminish. You might have some more years in the game, you might be wrestling live events, so you feel that you don't need to or don't have time to train as often. Go back to being a day one rookie. Jump in on a fundamentals class. Don't let your ego get in the way of progress, particularly if you feel like you've taken a back step. As I said, getting that level of flow state or automation, it takes time and it takes reps. And no one's beyond that. I don't care how long you've been doing this for, but especially after a period of time off where the ring rust is at its highest, this is where it's the most important. And in time, you'll probably find that it's kind of like riding a bike and that progress comes back to you. That muscle memory returns very, very rapidly. I'd also recommend getting footage of the way you train. In my school, at least, there's no issue setting up a camera in the corner, filming the training session, so you can kind of look back and reflect on it afterwards. Often with wrestling, we feel a certain way in the ring, and particularly when we've kind of lost that muscle memory, we feel clunky. Things just don't come off as well as they used to. They don't feel as flowy, as fluid. But when you watch it back, you might often find that this isn't the case and it actually looks just fine. So at least by watching it back, you can kind of get a better picture of how you're actually doing. Is it all in your head, or is this actually something you need to work on? The next step is to get live experience. As soon as you're feeling that an injury you may have had is safe and you can perform on it and everything's sweet, even if you're lacking that confidence, jumping into live event reps can be a great way to rapidly get back to form. One thing I like to tell my crew is you may be more selective as you have more years in the game. You may not take those lesser bookings, but after a period of ring rust, this is actually a great time to get those lesser reps in. The reason being, they're often not seen by as many people. They're maybe not as important to you or the scene at large. It's not like you're going to go and have a bad performance at one of these lower shows that 50 to 100 people rock up to, and now everyone's going to see it and think you're terrible. It's kind of like a safe way to get those live event reps in. And as we know, live event reps are very, very different from training reps. So equally, if not more important. When you come back from time off, the pressure is usually a lot higher, and that's just pressure you're putting on yourself. So if you can remove as many of these pressures as possible, it's a great place to start. Just be careful though, it's